Jiraiya tried to get some of his questions answered. "So, who taught you Hiraishin no Jutsu, Naruto?" he asked. Naruto just answered, "That's a secret. I hope you can understand that." Jiraiya frowned at this. He wanted the answers. Naruto had become powerful, almost too powerful, on his own. "Alright. I want you to do this mission alone without Hiraishin no Jutsu. Only use it if you are in deep trouble," said Jiraiya, and Naruto nodded. He hadn't planned on using Hiraishin no Jutsu in a mission just yet. "I don't see the point in using Hiraishin no Jutsu against bandits. I'd rather see what I can do before resorting to an S-rank technique," said Naruto. This surprised Jiraiya. He didn't think that Naruto would agree this easy. They got to the bandit camp and decided to do some recon. They looked around and saw no indication of bad intel. They then looked at each other and Naruto gave Jiraiya one of his kunai that was marked with a Jutsu Shiki before he disappeared in a blur. He landed in the middle of the camp, unnoticed. His mission was simple. Kill the enemy, rescue any civilian. "Hey look, there's a brat over here," said one of the bandits. "Well, I guess I'd be spotted if I just appeared inside of the camp," thought Naruto as he got to work. He quickly threw a shuriken at the man. The shuriken hit the bandit on the forehead and he fell backwards. Dead. Naruto then proceeded to blur between the low-level thugs with a kunai in each hand, slitting their throats one by one. It was a gruesome sight. The bandits had never seen anyone move as quickly as he had. "It's a shinobi." Kwai the bandit was interrupted as a kunai hit the back of his neck. "This isn't even a battle, this is genocide," thought a sad Naruto. He knew that this was the shinobi life. He knew that this was what he had signed up for. He continued to blur between the thugs until he was the only combatant standing. His whole outfit was bloodied, but none was his. He looked around him with sadness in his eyes. He didn't like it one bit, but these men had murdered, raped and plundered several villages. This was the life of a shinobi. This wasn't the first time he had killed. He had done it before. Flashback, 3 years ago, Saratobi compound. It was late in the evening. Naruto was alone in his room and was in his bed trying to sleep. The boy had a bad feeling, as if something was going to happen. He sat up and looked towards the window and saw 3 shadows. The shadows moved into his room. All he could see was a sadistic smile from the middle one. He then screamed with everything he had. "Man, someone must have heard that," said one of them. Suddenly the door opened and the one to the right threw a kunai, hitting the individual in the chest that opened it. The person fell forward with blood seeping onto the carpet. "Hanako Nichin," called Naruto out in despair. He got out of bed and ran to her side and started shaking her body with tears flowing down his cheeks. Please, Hanako Nichin. Please wake up." There was no response. Naruto started shaking. His sadness and despair turned into anger. He then flipped Hanako's body, confusing the 3 unknown shinobi. They then felt it. His chakra. Their confidence turned into fear. The child turned his eyes towards them, revealing fiery red eyes with slits for pupils, filled with anger and hatred. "You will pay for what you did," the little child roared as he pulled the kunai out from Hanako's heart and then charged at the man who had thrown the kunai at a blinding speed. The man hadn't even seen the child move. The kunai connected with his throat before he had even reacted. The other 2 looked at the boy with pure fear. This was not the job they were given. They were here to abduct the Uzumaki child, not fight a monster. Said boy pulled the kunai out and looked at the other 2 with wide red eyes, like he had gone insane. He moved in a blur as they both fell on the ground. He looked at them before falling unconscious as well. Mindscape. Naruto looked around in confusion. What happened? He wondered. Am I in my mindscape right now? He was in a sewer with a large cage door in front of him. There was a few inches of water on the floor. He looked into the dark cage and his eyes widened as a large fox head appeared within field of view. "Ah, so my jailer has finally decided to visit me," said a deep voice, coming from the fox. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized who or what this was. This was the Kyuubi no Kitsune. The 9-tailed fox. He wasn't frightened though. No, he had seen the marking that was sitting on a piece of paper on the gate. "Hello, Kyuubi-san," said Naruto in a sad manner, with his head looking downwards. Am I inside my head right now?" he asked as he looked up at the oversized fox with tears in his eyes. "Yes, jailer," the Kyuubi said. "You are currently inside your mindscape." He was surprised at Naruto's behavior. Not only did Naruto know where he was, but he also didn't show any form of fear in the presence of the big and might Kyuubi. "How are you not scared?" the big fox asked. Naruto answered, "Well, I know that the paper on that gate is keeping you from getting out. I also know that you've only got half of your chakra right now, which means that you are not strong enough to completely break it with your raw power." The Kyuubi's eyes widened. This boy knew his situation to the exact point. "You knew about me the whole team?" the Kyuubi asked. Unlike his last host, he hadn't been able to see through the seal at all throughout the last few years. He had no idea what his jailer had experienced until he got angry enough to subconsciously draw on his power. Yeah, I even fixed the seal that 2chan screwed up," said Naruto. "He messed it up so now my memories is all mumbo jumbo and I can't even tell whose my memories are my father's, my mother's or my own." This surprised Akaiubi even more. So, he has somehow absorbed his parents' memories, the big fox thought. Interesting. "I would suggest to not tell people about this, Naruto," said the Kyuubi before continuing. "With the knowledge of your parents, he could very well become the most powerful host I've ever had." "What? Why not?" asked Naruto. "Because as you are right now, even if you have the memories and techniques of your parents, your strength is not even close to what you'd be facing if this came out to the world." After he heard this, Naruto began thinking. The big fox had a point. If he told someone, who's to say that there isn't someone eavesdropping on them? The result could be devastating. "I guess you have a point, Kyuubi-san," said Naruto as he looked at the Kyuubi. He then realized what had happened only a few minutes ago. Wait, what happened to Hanako Nichin? The Kyuubi only lowered his head and said, "I am sorry." She did not survive. The kunai struck her heart and she died instantly. For what it's worth though, young man, you got your revenge instantaneously. You killed the man and avenged that young woman. Naruto's eyes grew wide in shock. He had killed someone. Sure, he had his parents' memories, but that didn't matter. He had just killed someone and he was 5 years old. The Kyuubi sighed, the boy was going into an emotional shock. He decided to handle it the best way he could. Through fear. And so, he roared. "You did what you had to do, you little brat. It was either you or them. You are not a monster for using my chakra to kill your enemies. No, you are the exact opposite. Now go back to the world of the living because I have just gotten a headache from watching you go into a fucking shock without a reason." And flashback, after that event, he had gone through counseling for the grief and emotional trauma that it had caused him. He didn't like killing, but he knew what he had to do to survive in this world. It turned out that the men had been from Kumagakure, much like with the incident that involved Hinata. He suddenly sensed a chakra build-up. "Heian. Dikakyu no Jutsu." He heard a voice call out. He looked to his left and saw a fireball closing in on him. He quickly sidestepped it and looked at who had fired it. It was clearly a shinobi. The fucka, there wasn't supposed to be any shinobi here. Naruto thought. This was bad, he hadn't anticipated a shinobi to be there. He studied his opponent and saw the leaf headband. A Konoha Nukenin. What the fuck? I don't recognize him from the bingo book. He thought as he got ready for battle. The man was a lot longer than Naruto, had a standard Konoha Chunin outfit, minus the vest. His headband was slashed, which gave away the rogue element. The Nukenin also had a katana on his back. I should stay away from close combat. He's most likely physically stronger than I am. Who are you? The blonde asked. The shinobi only laughed and said, I am Satoshi Kiba, former Chunin of Konoha. Who might you be, little kid? Sorry, that's classified. Said Naruto, smirking under his mask. Thanks for telling me your name though, Kiba. It hit, the Nukenin got irritated by his behavior. Kiba went through hand seals and fired 6 small fireballs. Indicating the Kaiten. Hausenkan no Jutsu. Naruto jumped into the air and spun a few times, throwing 4 shuriken as he dodged the small fireballs. He landed on his feet and the shuriken multiplied by 5 each. Kiba's eyes widened. He didn't see this coming. The brat had just used a B-rank technique. He quickly drew his sword and parried as many as he can, but a few of them wounded his arms and legs. He fell down and started panting. Shit, I got careless. He muttered. He looked up and saw Naruto running fast towards him. He stood up and raced towards the blonde as fast as he could, intending to go for close combat. I will not be beaten by a little brat. He roared, charging with his blade and poised towards Naruto. As the blade was about to hit him, Naruto moved his body to the left and pressed his index finger on Kiba's arm, sending some chakra through it. The Nukenin dropped his sword and screamed in agony. He had just hit a pressure point in the arm. Naruto then lost balance and skidded on the ground before regaining it and broke off the speed with his legs as he slid on the ground, panting. And I'm not going to die today either, Kiba-san. Said the blonde as he stood up. Kiba looked at his right arm. He couldn't use it. What the fuck did you do to my arm, brat? He yelled. Naruto sighed. This man had abandoned his village and attacked him on a mission. That was the final mark of betrayal. He knew that Kiba had to die. Fuck, I underestimated this fucking brat, Kiba thought, how could I be so stupid? Konoha doesn't send children into combat without reasons. Naruto was closing in on him. He decided to get up and start running. Naruto sighed. Kiba wasn't a threat to him and he knew that. He wasn't a part of the mission parameters. He decided to start opening the cages and let the prisoners out. As he was letting the last ones out, one of them approached him with a happy smile and tears in her eyes. Thank you, Shinobi-san. Thank you. She said as she hugged him. His eyes widened. He didn't need their gratitude. He was just doing his job. He returned the hug nonetheless as he let a tear down his cheek. As they broke off the hug, the young woman took a good look at the boy. Her eyes widened as she realized that the shinobi in question was just a little kid. She also saw the sadness in his eyes. "What made you this way?" she thought as she continued to stare at him. But before she could say anything, Jiraiya came out from the woods. "Good work, Naruto," he said as he looked around the battlefield with a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I hope this didn't break him," the Sannin thought. "Why did Konoha send such a young man?" asked the young woman to Jiraiya. She didn't get his answer from him, however, it came from Naruto. "I requested it." Her eyes widened. The boy had requested a mission like this? "Why?" she asked, sobbing. Naruto just looked at her with sadness in his eyes as he said, "Because I want to protect those who can't protect themselves." She looked at him in wonder. The boy had taken it upon himself to become a protector. A shield for the ones who couldn't defend themselves. As she was thinking, a little girl approached Naruto. "Nai-chan, thank you for saving us," she said. Naruto looked at her for a moment before smiling and thinking, this is what I fight for. He then put his hand on the girl's head and ruffled her hair. "No problem, kid," he said. Had they seen his mouth, they'd see a genuine smile. Jiraiya decided to butt in. It was clear that the boy wasn't emotionally broken. He went over to the boy and whispered in his ear. "New mission parameters. Escort the civilians to the closest town." With that, he told all of them to round up to a line and start walking. This part of the mission was pretty uneventful. Naruto had created 5 cage bunshin to guard the back, each with a jutsu Shiki kunai on them that wouldn't dispel, should they do. He decided to speak to Jiraiya. "Jiraiya-sensei, you saw what happened on the battlefield, right?" he asked. Jiraiya nodded before saying yes. "I also saw you take care of that Chunin. I'm surprised you didn't take him out though. It seemed easy by the way you handled the bandits." Naruto sighed. "He wasn't threat to me. He may be in the future, but he isn't one now. And as for the bandits, it was almost too easy," the blonde said with sadness. "I just hope I won't lose myself to the darkness like Itachi-senpai did." Jiraiya was surprised. He must have held Itachi in high regards for him to still call him his superior. This boy is showing wisdom way beyond his age. "What is your dream, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked, surprising the boy at the sudden question. He blushed as he answered, "My dream is to become strong enough to take up my father's mantle as the Hokage and bring peace to this world." Jiraiya smiled. This boy had a powerful dream. He might just be the one, Fukasaku-sensei. 3 days later, Konohagakure. Naruto was walking down the road towards the ramen stand, coming from the Hokage's office after the mission report. It had been a few days since he had eaten their delicious ramen. The mission had been a success, although it had become rather complicated after Satoshi Kiba arrived to fight Naruto. As the blonde boy was walking down, he recalled what they discussed back at the briefing. Flashback to 30 minutes ago. Naruto, now unmasked, and Jiraiya stood in front of the Hokage and Yumi no Ruka. They had just gotten back from an extermination rescue escort mission. The parameters had changed halfway, and they had to do more than what they had been asked to do from the start. "So, how did the mission go, Naruto?" the Hokage asked. Said Jen and walked forward and started doing his mission debriefing. "Mission success, Hokage-sama," he started. "We got to the target location and went over the mission parameters once more. Jiraiya ordered me to do it alone, as a test." At this, both the Hokage and Iruka looked at Jiraiya for confirmation. They got it and Naruto continued. "I used Shunshin no Jutsu to get myself into the camp unnoticed and continuously used it afterwards to eliminate the threat," he said, before taking a breath as he continued. "However, when I was done neutralizing the target with lethal force, an unforeseen factor came into play. Satoshi Kiba." At this, their eyes widened. Satoshi Kiba was a Chunin coming from the same batch of shinobi as Iruka. He was proficient in both Kenjutsu and Kaiten ninjutsu. It was even said that this man was supposed to become a Jounin had he not retired from the ninja force a year ago, leaving the village. I fought him and neutralized him as a threat. He is however still alive and somewhere in the fire country. I suggest branding him as a Nukenin of C rank level, maybe B rank because of his proficiency in ninjutsu and Kenjutsu," finished Naruto. The Hokage then looked at Jiraiya to continue the debriefing. Said Sannin stepped forward and started. After Kiba retreated into the woods, Naruto started releasing the hostages. "It was at that time that I got word from you, Hokage-sama, that we were to escort them to the closest village. That part of the mission was uneventful, and we stayed in the town for a day to make sure that they were truly safe." The Sannin finished. The Hokage nodded before smiling towards Naruto. "Well done, Naruto-kun." Hiruzen started. "You have come a long way in the past few days. Now back to the mission. Naruto, you suggested that Kiba is to be marked as a Nukenin of B rank caliber." At this, Naruto nodded. "Very well, he shall be marked as a traitor for attacking one of our own shinobi with the approach of capture or kill. Well done on this mission, Naruto-kun. And thank you Jiraiya for observing Naruto as he did this mission." The duo nodded, then Hiruzen continued. "However, there is something else I need to discuss with the two of you." Their eyes narrowed towards the Hokage as he continued. Naruto, I would like you to look at this bingo book. Open page 25. With that, he gave Naruto the book, who took it and started reading, as his eyes widened slightly. He started over and started reading out loud. Alias. Shunshin no Naruto. Real name. Naruto, last name unknown, presumably Namikaze, age. Unknown, presumably 8 affiliation. Konohagakure no Sato rank. Genin level. C rank, potentially B rank skills. Has shown the ability to use Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and is extremely proficient in Shunshin no Jutsu. Naruto has also got knowledge of the human anatomy, being able to hit pressure points. His battle senses are beyond his age, be aware. Potential sensor, approach. Capture. Note. Hair and eyes resembles the Yondaime Hokage. Namikaze Minato, Konoha no Kairoi Senko. Proceed with caution. Signed by. Unknown. When he was done reading, he turned to Hiruzen with wide eyes. After a few seconds he regained himself and asked, my first mission, and I'm already in the fucking bingo book, huh? Well, ain't that a bitch? At this, the other three laughed as Naruto sighed. Someone must have either spied on them as they were doing the mission. Yes, Naruto, this means that you will have to be extra careful during missions. Hope you understand that. The Hokage said, to which Naruto nodded. But, how the hell did they get the information so fast and put it into a bingo book? Naruto asked. At this, the Hokage frowned. He truly had no idea. The bingo book came with a messenger pigeon only a few hours before Naruto and Jiraiya had returned from the mission. I have no idea. But for now, proceed with caution during missions, Naruto-kun. Now go and get some rest. Your payment will be sent to your account. Congratulations on your first mission, Naruto-kun. Especially for your first B rank. You're dismissed. Naruto's face split in half. His first mission had been a B rank mission. He resisted the urge to jump up in the air and cheer like a hyperactive brat. He resisted that urge a lot. Goddamn genes from my mother. Stupid hyperactive retard, he thought. And flashback, as he came back to his senses, he had arrived at his destination. He walked in and saw two of his old classmates. Nara Shikamaru and Akimichi Chouji. He smiled, it had been a while since he had been able to talk to them. He sat down and waited for either Am or Tucci to come out from the back. Hey guys, how are ya? He asked. They both turned around and the pineapple-haired sighed, muttering troublesome. Before answering, hey Naruto-senpai. We're fine, what about you? Ah, I'm doing great. A little bit hungry cause I got back from a mission, but otherwise I'm fine. What about you, Chouji? Gotten any better at Buban Baika no Jutsu? Naruto asked. He received a smile from Chouji before he said yeah. It's getting bigger every week, dude. What kind of mission did you do? Did you rescue a princess? Thought an evil warlord? Come on, give us the details, Naruto-senpai. Haha, enthusiastic as usual, Chouji-kun. And no, I didn't rescue a princess or fight an evil warlord. I merely fought a bunch of samurai and then escorted some civilian captives to safety. Naruto said, before continuing, but I wouldn't keep your hopes up about getting these kind of missions on the first day. The only reason I got to do it so quickly was because my sensei vouched for me. At that, Chouji sighed. Damn, what kind of missions are we gonna do when we graduate, then? He asked. Naruto frowned as he said, you will be doing D-ranked missions until your teamwork is of adequate level. Those missions are more like chores in my opinion. I've seen Genin run around looking for a damn cat and paint fences. Luckily I won't have to deal with those for a while, heh. They talked for a minute before Am came out. She saw Naruto and smiled. Hey Naruto-kun, how are you? She asked. He turned to her with a heartbreaking smile and said, hey Am Nichin. I'm fine, thank you. I'm really hungry though, so could I have a bowl of miso ramen? Am nodded and started on the food. Tucci then came out and said, hey Brad, how are ya? In a joking manner. Naruto laughed and answered with, hey old man, I'm doing well. How are you? Tucci laughed and said, I'm doing perfectly fine. Heard you got back from a mission though. I take it by your mood it was a success. Naruto smiled as he scratched his back in embarrassment before saying, yeah, it was a success. Got a B-rank mission in the bag. At this, both Chouji and Shikamaru spat out their ramen and yelled, you went out on a B-rank mission. Naruto laughed as he said, yeah, it was supposed to be a C rank, but it turned out to be a B rank cuz a former Chunin from this village came and attacked me. I managed to fend him off before Jiraiya-sensei came out of hiding though. Wait a minute. You have the Jiraiya of the Sannin as your sensei? Chouji asked in pure jealousy. What the hell man, that's freaking awesome. That dude is a legend. Naruto just laughed. They didn't need to know that Naruto actually took Satoshi Kiba on alone. They didn't need to know that he had done the first part solo, and they absolutely didn't need to know was that he was, in fact, stronger than most Chunin, if not Jounin in this village. No, they didn't need to know that. Yeah, what can I say? I'm just that awesome. He answered, letting his inner child have some fun. In the meantime, Shikamaru had been listening to the conversation and just muttered troublesome blonde before continuing with his lunch. They talked for about 30 minutes while they were eating. After they were done, they told Naruto that they needed to go back to the academy as their lunch break was almost over. Naruto asked them if he could join them and they nodded and said that it was entirely up to the teacher of the class. You mean Iruka? Oh, Iruka-senpai became a teacher. Must have used his lunch break to be at the mission report, Naruto said, thinking for a moment. Come to think of it, he did have his food at the table when I were debriefing them about the mission. They went to the academy and Naruto was greeted by everyone they walked by. As they got into their classroom he sat down on one of the chairs that was standing by the door. Iruka saw him and smiled. Hey, Naruto Kohai. What are you doing here? Naruto smiled back and said, hey, Iruka-senpai. I just got incredibly bored so I decided to come here and hang with my former classmates. Maybe I can assist you in some things, don't you think? Iruka kept his smile. Naruto wanted to help him with his class. He nodded and said, yeah, sure, why don't you come over here and take over as the teacher for this class? It's history. Naruto smiled. He knew history alright. It was probably one of his favorite subjects. Yeah, sure. He said. He smirked and decided to show off a little bit. He used Kawarimi no Jutsu to literally switch place with Iruka. Said individual was surprised at the sudden switch in place, but laughed it off saying, Naruto, you're such a show-off. Naruto just split his face into a shit-eating grin and laughed. He then looked at Iruka's notes and saw that today's subject was the 4 Hokage. He suddenly felt a sense of nostalgia. He knew why. His father's memories. He then walked towards the blackboard and took a crayon and started writing down the 4 names of the Hokages and their respective titles. Okay, let's go. Raise your hands if you know the answers to these questions, alright. He said, getting nods from the class. He then continued. Alright, so, what can you guys tell me about the Shodai Hokage, Senju Hashirama? Several people raised their hands and he decided to humor himself as he pointed toward Sakura, who took a breath before starting. Senju Hashirama was one of the founders of this village. He was at his time renowned as the most powerful shinobi in the world and was given the nickname Shinobi no Kami. That title was later given to his student, the Sandaime Hokage. He had a wife by the name Uzumaki Mito, who was a seal master. Shodai-sama had a rare bloodline that gave him the ability to use Mokuton techniques. As she finished, Naruto nodded and said, alright, very good Sakura-san. Now, Sasuke-san, what can you tell me about the other founder of this village? Sasuke nodded, releasing an HN before saying the other founder of this village was called Uchiha Madara. He was known as the only person who could go toe-to-toe with Shodai-sama. Not much is known about him as they fought at the Valley of the End. Naruto smiled. Sasuke had been doing the homework on his clan. Naruto then pointed towards the second Hokage's name and said, alright, who here can tell me something about this man? Several people held their hands up. Naruto decided that Ino was to be the one who answers the question. She stood up and started. The Nidaime Hokage's name was Senju Tabarama. He was the brother of the Shodai Hokage and was renowned as the best Suiton Jutsu user to have ever lived. Not much is known about him, however, as he died during the First Shinobi War after giving the mantle to the Sandaime Hokage. Naruto nodded at Ino in approval. It was a sufficient amount of information. She blushed as she sat down on the bench. Alright, now who could tell me something about the old man? He asked jokingly, earning a few chuckles from the class. Everyone put up their hands. He smiled, people knew something about the current Hokage. He pointed towards Chaoji, who stood up and started speaking. The Sandaime Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, is the current Hokage who retook the mantle after the Yondaime Hokage died. He is known as the Professor and the Shinobi no Kami for his prowess in ninjutsu and bujutsu. He has led this village through 2 of the 3 great shinobi wars and trained the legendary Sannin. Naruto nodded with a smile. Chaoji gave him a lot of information. That was good. Alright, I should let you guys talk about the Yondaime. But, it says that you guys haven't gone over him so I'll talk about him for you. How about that? He asked, receiving nods. He then put his hand up in the air as he exclaimed Yosh. Monologue time. And then he jumped onto the table and started his little story. The students chuckled a little bit at Naruto's antics. Alright. The Yondaime Hokage's name was Namikaze Minato and was known throughout the elemental countries as the Yellow Flash. He was the only shinobi to receive the order to flee on sight should he be seen on the battlefield. He was taught by the great Jiraiya of the Sannin. His expertise revolved around Fuinjutsu, the art of sealing. He was also very fast, even without his signature technique Hiraishin no Jutsu, and the enemies would often confuse his Shunshin no Jutsu with Hiraishin no Jutsu. The students were now listening, intrigued by the information. Some of them even had stars in their eyes as they heard Naruto talk with such an affectionate tone about Minato. Almost as if they were related. Yondaime-sama had 3 students by the name of Uchiha Obito, Nahara Rin and Hada Kakashi. The former two died during the Third Great Shinobi War, but the latter is currently one of Konoha's strongest shinobi and is considered to be next in line as Hokage, along with the two remaining Sannin that are loyal to the village. He took a breath before continuing. When the war was over, he took the mantle as Hokage, albeit briefly. Yondaime Sama died 3 years after the war protecting the village against the Kyuubi no Kitsune, sacrificing his life to defeat it. He jumped down from the table, indicating that he was done talking. All of the children looked at Naruto in amazement and awe. They had no idea that Naruto knew so much about the Yondaime Hokage. Iruka looked at him in amazement as well. Not even he knew this much about Minato. Right before Naruto started talking, the bell rang. The class was over and the break started. He hadn't even noticed the time go by that fast. He had been talking for over an hour. "Everyone, don't forget to read up on Second War until next week," said the blonde, remembering it from the notes. Iruka smiled once more, proud of Naruto and his ability to tell the tale of the Yondaime Hokage and even remember what was written down on his notes. The kids ran out of the classroom and soon only Iruka and Naruto were left. "So, how do you think that went, Iruka-senpai?" the blonde asked. Iruka looked at him and said, "I think it went rather well. The whole class was mesmerized at your storytelling. I hope you can come back someday and help me with them again." Naruto blushed in embarrassment from the compliment before smiling and scratching the back of his head. "Yeah, sure, I'd love to," said Naruto as he went over to the open window and jumped out of it, only to take footing on the wall and started walking down towards the ground. Iruka walked over to the window and looked down and saw Naruto performing the tree walking exercise and smiled. "You're really something, Naruto-kun," he thought, leaving the window. After he had walked out from the academy grounds, he started walking home. He had been up all night and he was really tired. He also needed a long shower. "Man, this day was a really fun day," he thought as he walked home. "Naruto, you're going to experience a lot of pain and suffering. Remember who you are. Find a goal, a dream, and don't stop trying until it comes true. There's so much more that I want to say to teach you. I want to stay with you. I love you." Asp. Naruto woke up with a swing, his upper body rocking up in the air. The memories, his parents' memories, were invading his dreams. The worst part was that he saw it through their perspective. It was annoying as he couldn't get much sleep when they came. He sighed. He couldn't do anything about it other than taking an aspirin and hope it would tone down the headache it gave him. At least they weren't flooding his brain like the Cage Bunshin memories does. No, they came in waves in the form of dreams. First, it was his father's and then came his mother's. And be helped, he sighed once more as he got up from his makeshift bed that was a futon. He walked towards the sink and drowned his face in water to cool himself down. The memories were annoying, but it gave him some form of reassurance that his parents loved him. At least he knew who they were. At least he knew that loved him. "DFFT. Too many feelings, brat," came a dark voice. Why the fuck are you up?" the brat asked. "Aren't you supposed to sleep for a few more years?" "Nah, couldn't sleep, too many mushy memories strolling through your brain," the dark voice replied. Naruto sighed once again. This day was going to be long if Kyuubi had decided to wake up and annoy him to death. "Your brain is a mess, by the way. You know that, right?" "Yeah, I know, furball," the Chibi Yondaime replied, only to receive a growl in response. "Mind going to sleep again? I kinda don't want to deal with you in my head right now. You're not making it any better when you're awake. Brat, show some respect. I'm the goddamn Kyuubi was cut off by Naruto as he blocked the seal from his mind. He didn't mind talking to the Kyuubi, but right now he was in such a mental mess he couldn't deal with the oversized fox. "Sigh, do I even have anything to do today?" Naruto mused. "Even if I wasn't on leave, I wouldn't be able to do a mission anyway. Jiraiya left me behind here in Konoha to chase his old teammate. Man, if that happened to me I'd just straight up kill the traitor." With a final sigh, he took a cylinder containing the aspirins from the shelf before pouring a water into a glass and putting one of the water dissolving pills in it. He looked at the pill that was dissolving, seemingly lost in thought. "I'm stuck in the village with only D ranks in training, unless I can find a team to do C ranks with that ain't happening. OG-san is coddling me way too much and the only man he'd put me under would be Jiraiya. This sucks. Am I really gonna be stuck here in the village until Iro-senin comes back?" He stopped himself and frowned. "God damn it, I thought I got rid of that verbal tick. Ugh, at least I haven't used it publicly in a few years." He resisted the urge to sigh as he gulped down the aspirin water. He put the glass down on the counter and went to his room to get dressed. Today's outfit was a simple one as he wasn't on duty for today. He had been given a day off as he had just gotten back from a B-rank mission. He decided to wear an orange shirt with the Uzumaki insignia on its back and a pair of dark blue cargo pants. He still wore his sandals as they were comfortable. The pants' pockets were reinforced and could therefore hold a few kunai without them tearing through it, which was perfect in case of emergency. He put his headband on and put a few of his Hiraishin kunai into the biggest pocket located on his leg before walking out of the room. As he did so, he sensed a familiar source of chakra appear in his living room. He let it slide as he didn't think much of it, giving the man the option to reveal himself before breakfast. When he got into the living